ESPN Radio, Chris Canton and Michelle Small, they was talking about the Cleveland Browns quarterback competition between Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson. And I can't wait to play you that clip of what they had to say. And also, check this out. Jeudy, I got a clip of him saying that, listen, put all of the outside distractions behind because he is locked in. Lastly, Travis Hunter.
Nobody in Cleveland saw this coming. Not like this. A 5th-round pick. A kid the whole league passed on. And right now, in a training camp that was supposed to belong to someone else, he's the one everybody can't stop talking about. This is the story of a young quarterback who was told over and over that he didn't belong at this level. It's the story of a locker room that's starting to shift underneath the feet of the guy who was handed the job on paper. And it's the story of a city that's desperate for someone to finally give them a reason to believe again. Because right now in Cleveland, something is happening that nobody scripted. Let's go back for a second. Before the helmets, before the practice reps, before any of this, Shedeur Sanders walked into the NFL with a name that was impossible to separate from his father's shadow. Everywhere he went, the questions followed him. Is he only here because of who his dad is? Can he actually play at this level? Does he have the arm, the mindset, the toughness to survive in a league that chews up quarterbacks and spits them out? And then came draft night. A night that was supposed to be a coronation turned into something else entirely. Team after team passed. The cameras kept cutting to him, waiting, while his name stayed off the board. It became one of the most talked about falls in recent draft history. People online had a field day with it. Analysts questioned everything, his attitude, his readiness, whether the hype train had finally run out of track. By the time Cleveland finally called his name in the 5th round, the narrative was already written for him. Bust. Overhyped. A guy who talked a big game but couldn't back it up when nobody was clapping for him anymore. Think about what that actually does to a person. Not a headline, not a stat line, a human being, 20-something years old, sitting in a room while the entire sports world debates in real time whether he's worth anything at all. Cameras zoomed in on his face looking for a crack. Radio hosts filled hours of airtime dissecting his college tape frame by frame looking for reasons to justify the fall. Some of it was fair criticism, a lot of it wasn't, but all of it landed on one guy who had to sit there and take it, live, in front of everyone. That's the part people forget when they talk about draft day drama like it's entertainment. For him, it wasn't a storyline, it was real. But here's the thing about narratives. They only hold up until somebody refuses to live inside them.
Between Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson, the national media, the local media, Twitter, everybody over there on social media is focused and dialed in on this quarterback competition. And many people are starting to come to their sense. They know Shedeur Sanders is the answer to the Cleveland Browns quarterback situation. Now, when you look at the whole roster, the Cleveland Browns is set up to win.
Now flip to today. Training camp is underway. 3 quarterbacks are in that quarterback room, all fighting for the same job. But only 2 names are actually part of the conversation people care about. Deshaun Watson, a former top pick who's carried a massive contract and just as massive expectations. And Shedeur, the guy who was never supposed to sniff a starting job this early, let alone be mentioned in the same breath as a veteran with Watson's resume. Subscribe if you want to keep up with every twist in this story, because trust me, this is only getting started. Here's what's wild. The people who cover this league for a living, the same voices who get paid to analyze quarterback battles for a living, are starting to say something nobody expected. They're looking at this Browns quarterback room and openly wondering if the true competition isn't even close. Some of the loudest voices in sports media have come out and said flatly that they believe the rookie has a real, legitimate shot to be QB1, not as a feel-good story, not as a participation trophy, but because of what he's actually shown on the field. Think about how rare that is, a 5th-round pick getting that kind of respect that early from people who make a living being skeptical. And it's not just talk. Coaches inside that building have reportedly been impressed with the details, the footwork, the timing, the way he sets his feet and gets the ball out on time on those tight intermediate throws, the 10, 12, 15-yard routes that separate quarterbacks who can sling it from quarterbacks who can actually run an offense. Anybody can throw a deep ball on air in shorts and a helmet. Completing the tough, contested in-between throws under a countdown clock, that's where quarterbacks get made or broken. And through the first practices of camp, that's exactly the part of his game people are buzzing about. But let's not pretend this competition is happening in a vacuum, because on the other side of the quarterback room is a former #1 overall pick, a former offensive rookie of the year, a guy who has genuinely rewritten what people thought was possible for a rookie quarterback earlier in his career, before injuries and off-field turmoil changed the entire arc of his story. Deshaun Watson isn't just some roster filler standing in the way. He's a former elite talent trying to prove he can still be that guy. The contract, the history, the pressure on the front office to justify their investment, all of that weighs on this competition too. That's what makes this so tense. This isn't David versus a nobody. This is a genuine crossroads for a franchise that's desperate to get the quarterback position right after years of instability. And the comparisons don't stop there. Around the league this same summer, there are other quarterback battles getting attention. Young rookies with big contracts stepping into new situations. Veterans trying to hold their ground against fresh talent. But something interesting keeps coming up when people break these situations down. Several of those other so-called battles aren't really battles at all. The jobs are basically already decided, whether by contract security, coaching trust, or unfortunate injuries to the competition. Real, open, undecided quarterback competitions are rare in this league. And that's exactly why what's happening in Cleveland feels different. This one isn't decided. Nobody in that building is pretending it is. And that uncertainty is exactly what's pulling so many eyes towards this story.
Will be QB1 for the Cleveland Browns up on the top, Marcus. ESPN Radio.
Against rookie contract signal callers. The question is, which battle is the most intriguing, and can one of these QBs help their team compete for a division title?
What if I told you I don't think any of the three are battles? What if I told you I think Watson's going to be the starter in Cleveland?
Which is ridiculous.
Kyler's going to be the starter in Minnesota.
Understandable.
And Cleveland fans know that pain more than almost any fan base in football. They've watched quarterback after quarterback come through that building with promise and leave with nothing but disappointment attached to their name. So when a young player starts turning heads in camp, the excitement isn't just about one guy. It's about a fan base that's starving for stability, for an identity, for someone they can finally build a future around. That hunger is exactly why every rep this summer is getting picked apart like it's a playoff game. Now here's where it gets personal, because it's not just about arm talent or footwork, it's about mindset. And that's the part of this story that people underestimate the most. Anyone who's followed this young quarterback's career knows the pattern by now. Every single stop, every single level, the first year has been about proving he belongs. And the second year, that's when something switches. Back in college, his first season on a team was always about survival, about absorbing criticism, about people doubting whether the hype matched the tape. Then year 2 would come around, and the numbers, the wins, the growth, it would jump. Not a small jump, a real jump. The kind of leap that makes scouts go back and rewatch old film, wondering how they missed it the first time. So now the question everybody's asking heading into his second NFL season is simple. Does that pattern hold at the highest level of the sport, against NFL talent, NFL speed, NFL pressure? Or does the league finally catch up to him? There's something else worth mentioning here, something that doesn't show up in a box score. People who've been around him describe a guy who genuinely seems unbothered by outside noise, almost to a fault. Where other players might crumble under that level of scrutiny, he's talked openly about using the doubt as motivation instead of letting it eat at him. Whether that's confidence, stubbornness, or something deeper, it's hard to say from the outside. But it's clear that whatever internal switch flips for him between year 1 and year 2 of a program, it hasn't stopped flipping yet. And every person in that building is watching closely to see if it happens again, right now, on the biggest stage of his life. If you're just now finding this channel, hit that subscribe button, because we're about to get into the part of the story where the pressure really turns up. Because it's not just the quarterback position under a microscope, the entire receiving core around him has become part of this storyline too. One name that's been impossible to ignore is Jeudy, a veteran wide receiver who came over with real expectations, someone who was supposed to be a steadying, dependable presence in that offense. But last season didn't go the way anyone hoped. Drops piled up at the worst moments, confidence took hits, and this offseason, social media did what social media always does. It turned rumors and split-second video clips into full-blown controversy, with fans convinced there was tension, maybe even a rift between Jeudy and the young quarterback fighting for the starting job.
We don't heard the story, we don't heard the drama that Jeudy calls over there on social media. They asked him in his chat when he went live over there on TikTok, who do you prefer as QB1 for you? And many people are saying that he's thrown up the 4 signs. Me personally, I don't see him throw up that 4 sign many times. But neither here or there, everybody got their opinion.
Except here's the twist nobody expected. When you actually look past the noise, past the edited clips, past the screenshots, the story falls apart. Because the people closest to Shedeur, including his own family, have been the first ones showing support for Jeudy online, over and over again. That's not what beef looks like. That's not what tension looks like. That looks like a locker room that's a lot tighter than outsiders want to believe. And Jeudy himself has made it clear, in his own way, that this season is about tuning everything else out. Whatever noise exists on the outside, he said the plan is simple. Stay locked in, block out the distractions, and get back to being the guy this offense actually needs him to be. No excuses about who's throwing him the ball. Just get open, catch it, and let the results speak. That's the kind of clarity a young quarterback needs around him, especially with new weapons entering the picture too. This offseason, the front office didn't sit still. They went out and added talent specifically to support whoever wins that job. A rookie receiver taken early in the draft, another explosive rookie target added right behind him, both of them already turning heads in these first camp practices. And it's not just the receiving room. The offensive line, which was one of the biggest weaknesses on this entire roster a year ago, got real investment and real changes this offseason too. Put it all together, and you start to understand why people around this team are so convinced this roster is actually built to win now. Not rebuild, not wait, win now, if they can just get the quarterback position figured out. Watch the early practice clips closely, and you'll see it. One rookie receiver, a big physical target with soft hands, hauling in a tough comeback route on a play where the quarterback had to read the defense, reset his feet under pressure, and put the ball in a tight window. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't a highlight reel deep shot, but to the coaches in that building, that kind of rep means more than any 50-yard bomb thrown wide open in 7-on-7 drills. That's the throw that shows up in games that actually matter, against defenses that are actually trying to take it away. Small moments like that are exactly why the tone inside the building has started to shift, even if the outside world hasn't fully caught up yet. And that brings us to the part of the story that's easy to overlook, because it's happening in a different city entirely, but it's tied to this same young quarterback story in a way that's almost poetic. Travis Hunter, a Heisman winner, a generational two-way talent who dominated college football unlike almost anyone in recent memory. He came into the NFL with the Jacksonville Jaguars carrying insane expectations, and then his rookie season got interrupted by injury before he ever really got to show the league what he could do consistently. Now he's back, bigger, stronger, faster, and the clips coming out of his training camp look different this time. Sharper cuts, more explosive bursts, a guy who clearly used a difficult rookie year as fuel instead of letting it break him.
A Heisman Trophy winner at Colorado got injured in his first season, a wide receiver, defensive back for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Well, he's back. He's bigger, he's stronger, and he's faster. Check out some clips of Travis Hunter working out, and I'm telling you, this second year just may be a rebound year for Travis Hunter. Let's go.
Here's the poetic part. Sanders and Hunter share history. They were teammates. They know each other's game. They came up through the same chapter of college football together. In this season, their teams are actually scheduled to open the year against each other. Two young stars, both coming off adversity in different forms, both trying to answer the same question at the same time. Can they turn doubt into dominance in year two? That storyline alone is reason enough to circle that opening week game on your calendar. But let's bring it back to the heart of this whole thing, because at the center of all of it is a young man who has heard "you're not good enough" more times in the last 18 months than most people hear in a lifetime. Heard it on draft night, in front of cameras, in front of the entire country. Heard it from analysts breaking down every throw looking for cracks. Heard it from fans who decided who he was before he ever played a single regular season snap. And instead of letting that noise define him, he's used it as the exact thing that's fueling him now. Every rep in this camp isn't just about winning a job. It's about answering every single person who counted him out. It's about proving that a 5th-round grade on a draft card doesn't have to be the final word on a career. Nobody knows yet how this quarterback competition ends. Maybe the veteran holds on and proves the doubters wrong about him instead. Maybe the front office plays it safe and leans on experience. But if the first days of camp are any indication, this isn't shaping up to be the easy, predetermined outcome a lot of people assumed it would be back in the spring. Think about the stakes for a second. If the rookie wins this job, it becomes one of the most dramatic underdog stories in recent NFL memory. A 5th-round pick, doubted by nearly every team in the league, climbing over a former number 1 overall selection to become the face of a franchise. If the veteran holds on, it becomes its own redemption story, proof that pedigree and experience can outlast hype in a results-driven business. Either way, somebody's story ends in triumph this season, and somebody's story takes on a whole different kind of weight. That's what makes training camp football, of all things, feel like appointment viewing right now. Not the preseason snaps themselves, but everything they represent. What we do know is this: a city that has been burned by quarterback disappointment for years is starting to let itself hope again. A young player who was humbled in front of the entire football world is fighting his way back into the conversation on pure performance. And a locker room that outsiders tried to paint as divided is, from everything we can actually see, standing behind him. Second years have always meant something different for this quarterback. If that pattern holds one more time, Cleveland might be about to witness the start of something they haven't felt in a very long time. And whatever happens next, the doubt, the pressure, the comparisons, none of it is going away anytime soon. But neither, it seems, is he.
Think back to draft night for a second. Think about that image everybody remembers. A young man sitting alone, waiting, while pick after pick came and went without his name attached to it. That image became a punchline for some people, a cautionary tale for others. But watch camp footage today. Watch the way he carries himself in that huddle, the way teammates talk about his energy, the way coaches describe his preparation. And it's hard not to wonder if that painful night on television is exactly the reason any of this is even possible now. Sometimes the lowest, most humiliating moment of a career ends up becoming the origin story nobody saw coming. Not because the pain magically disappeared, but because he refused to let it define the ending. This is a young man who has been counted out publicly, repeatedly, on the biggest stages sports media has to offer. And every single time, the response has been the same. Put the work in, stay quiet, let the film speak. No dramatic press conferences, no public feuds despite what social media wants you to believe. Just reps, just film, just the slow, unglamorous process of proving people wrong, one practice at a time. Maybe that's the real story here. Not the quarterback competition itself, but what it represents. A kid who was humbled in front of the entire country, who had every reason to let that moment break him, and instead used it to build something. Whether he wins this job or not, whether this season ends in triumph or heartbreak, that part of the story is already written. He didn't fold. He didn't disappear. He showed up, camp after camp, throw after throw, and made people watch. And if there's one thing this league has taught us over and over again, it's the players who refuse to disappear are usually the ones who end up writing the ending nobody expected. So keep watching, because whatever happens when the pads come off and the season kicks off for real, this is a story that's far from finished. And something tells us the next chapter is going to be the one everybody remembers.